One wrong choice, and the woman he loved disappeared into the night. A simple farmer received an unfaithful woman from God to be his wife. He obeyed. Years passed. A family was built. And against all reason, he fell deeply in love with her until one night she decided she wanted more. The word of the Lord came to Hosea. He told Hosea to take a wife who would be unfaithful to him. This would show how far the people of the land had wandered from God. Hosea obeyed. He took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, to be his wife. In the beginning, the house of Hosea was a happy one. Every morning before the sun was up, Hosea and Gomer walked out to the fields together. They worked side by side all day, breaking the ground, planting the seed, pulling weeds from between the rows. At midday, they sat together under the same tree and ate bread and a bit of cheese. Gomer had a son. The Lord told Hosea to name him Jezreel because of the killing that happened there. Hosea would carry the boy on his shoulders out to the fields in the cool morning air and set him down in the shade while he worked. The boy would fall asleep to the sound of his father's hands moving through the soil. Gomer had another child, a daughter. The Lord told Hosea to name her Lo-Ruhamah, which means not loved, because God said he would stop showing mercy to Israel. Later, Gomer had a third child, a son. The Lord told Hosea to name him Lo-Ami, which means not mine, because Israel had turned so far from God that they were no longer acting like his people. But Hosea did not know yet that these names were not just names. They were a warning. Sitting quietly inside his own house, waiting for the day the whole nation would understand what they meant. What was happening in his own home was about to happen to the whole nation, and no one watching his children grow up in that house could have guessed it yet. There were evenings when the work ran late, and Hosea and Gomer walked home together as the sun went down behind the hills. One evening, they stopped at the edge of the field to rest. Gomer looked up at the sky, watching the colors spread out over the grain. Hosea was not looking at the sky, he was looking at her face, watching the light from the sunset catch in her eyes. He didn't say anything, he just watched her. And then they picked up their tools and walked the rest of the way home in the dark. There was a season when the rains came late, and the whole household worked harder than usual to carry water from the well to the rows that were drying out. Gomer carried jars on her shoulders back and forth all day, and her arms ached, but the crop held. They celebrated quietly that year when the harvest came in heavier than they expected, and Hosea brought home a bit of honey from a trader passing through. After some time, Gomer began to change. She looked at her life with Hosea and thought it was too small. She started going to the market more often than she needed to, staying longer than the errands required. She saw other women there wearing nice clothes and jewelry, carrying wine and oil they hadn't earned, and she wanted that kind of life for herself. She came home later and later, and she stopped walking out to the fields with Hosea in the mornings, telling him she was tired. One morning she did not come home at all. She had left in the night while the house was quiet and gone looking for other men who she thought would give her bread, water, and wine. She walked away from Hosea's house and did not look back at it once. One of the hardest parts of Hosea's life began the morning after she left. He woke up and reached for her, and she wasn't there. He didn't run after her that day. He went out to the fields alone and worked the same ground they used to work together. And at midday, he sat under the same tree by himself, with no one to share the bread with. Some evenings, he would stop at the same spot where they used to watch the sunset, and he would just stand there, alone. He waited at home with the children, feeding them, putting them to bed. While he waited, the Lord told him what was happening to Gomer. Even far away, she was chasing after the men she'd run to, but she would not catch them. She would look for them, but she would not find them. Gomer moved from town to town. In the first town she came to, a man took her in for a while and gave her a string of beads, and she wore them through the streets, thinking they made her someone new. She stayed in his house through one season, and she put on her jewelry every morning, believing she had found the life she was looking for. She didn't realize that everything she had, the food, the wine, the oil, had really come from God all along, and not from this man. She thought she was moving up in life. She wasn't. God made her path harder. The man who had taken her in grew tired of her and sent her away before the next season turned. She went to a second town, and there, a different man let her stay for a short while, but he too grew cold toward her. And one evening she came back from the market to find her things set outside his door. She knocked, and no one answered. The things she used to get easily started disappearing. The men who once let her into their homes started shutting their doors instead. She kept moving from place to place, and the harder she searched, the less she found in her hands at the end of each day. One of the hardest nights of Gomer's life was the night she had nowhere left to go. She sat outside the gate of a town in the cold. She thought back to her old life, the fields at sunrise, the evenings walking home with Hosea. She said to herself,
I will go back to my first husband. I was better off then than I am now.
She remembered that it was Hosea who had given her food, wine, and clothes, not the men she had run after, who had given her only a few short seasons before turning her out into the street. The Lord spoke to Hosea again. This time it wasn't a command to punish her. It was a command to go and find her. The Lord said, I will lead her into the desert and speak kindly to her there. Hosea 2:14. Hosea left his fields untended for the first time since she had gone, and he went out to look for her. He walked from town to town, asking people at the gates if they had seen a woman matching her description. At one gate, the guards pointed him toward the next town down the road. In a market in another town, a man selling cloths remembered her and told him which direction she had gone. Finally, after many days of walking and asking, Hosea found her.
Before we continue, these videos take hours and hours to make, so if you could, please like and subscribe and comment which country you are watching this from.
She wasn't the same woman who had left his house with her jewelry catching the light and her eyes on other men. She had been taken in by someone else and was now treated almost like property, kept rather than loved. Hosea stood in the doorway and looked at her. She looked back at him. For a moment, neither of them said anything at all. Hosea didn't walk away. He paid for her freedom, 15 pieces of silver, a measure of barley, and half a measure of barley, and gave it to the man who had her. Then he reached out his hand. She took it. They walked back to his house together, along the same road, past the same fields, the same gates she had once passed through running the other way. She kept her eyes down toward the road the whole way home. When they got home, Hosea didn't go right back to how things used to be. He told her she would have to stay close to him for a while. No other men, and he wouldn't be with other women either. They needed to rebuild what had been broken before they could go back to living as they had before. Gomer agreed. She stayed inside the house, helping with small tasks, sitting near the children, going nowhere without Hosea knowing. Day after day passed, and each day put more distance between her and the life she'd left behind. At first, the house felt strange to both of them, full of long silences at mealtimes. The house that used to be filled with the sound of her walking out the door now had a different feeling. Two people slowly learning to live together again. Hosea took care of her like before, brought her water when she was thirsty, mended the roof before the rains came, and he didn't bring up the past, not once. Some of the most important days of Hosea's life were the quiet ones that came after this, the ones where nothing big happened at all. Gomer worked around the house in the mornings, grinding grain, mending clothes, watching the children. Hosea went out to the fields and came back at night, the same as he always had. One day, several weeks into her return, she walked out to the edge of the field to bring him water, and she found him already stopped there, watching the sunset, just like he used to before she left. She stood next to him without saying a word, and the two of them watched it together. The next evening, she came out again at the same time, and the evening after that. It became part of their routine again, just like the field work used to be. Their children had watched their mother leave before. Now, they watched her stay. They saw their parents standing together at the edge of the field every evening. And slowly, the fear that had filled the house since she left started to fade out of their faces. But neither Hosea nor Gomer realized yet that their story wasn't just about them anymore. What happened in their home was becoming a picture of something much bigger. A picture of how far the whole nation had wandered from God and what it would take to bring them back. Outside their home, the nation kept moving toward trouble. Assyria, a powerful enemy nation to the north, was growing stronger near Israel's borders every year. Israel's kings kept getting overthrown one after another, often by violence. The priests kept leading people to worship statues instead of God. Statues set up in the towns of Bethel and Gilgal, where crowds gathered to bow before them. The people kept breaking their promises to one another and trusting other nations to protect them instead of trusting God. Hosea spoke out against all of this. He stood at the city gates in the early mornings and spoke against the priests and the people doing wrong. He told them God wanted loyalty, not empty rituals carried out at the altars without any change of heart behind them. He told them that just like a husband had gone out into the towns to bring back his wife, God would deal with his people the same way, breaking them down so he could heal them again. Hosea would speak in the city gates all morning and then walk the long road home in the afternoon heat. Gomer would be waiting at the edge of the field when he came into sight, just like she'd started doing since coming back. He'd set down his walking stick at the door, wash the dust from his feet, and they'd eat together while the children told him what had happened that day.
We helped him carry his goods.
You did?
Afterward, Hosea and Gomer would walk back out to that same spot at the edge of the field to watch the sun go down, just like they used to when they were young and just starting out. Years passed this way. Hosea kept living in his house with Gomer by his side. Their children grew older, carrying the weight of the names given to them at birth, but also carrying the memory of a mother who had left and a father who had gone out into strange towns to bring her home. The family that had almost fallen apart was standing strong again, the fields still planted and harvested in their season. Hosea spoke about a day that was still coming, a day he wrote down himself. After this, the people of Israel will turn back. They will look for the Lord their God. Hosea 3:5. He kept telling people this even as Assyria's army kept getting closer every year, and even as Israel's kings kept sending messengers to Egypt asking for help that would never come. At home, the years settled into something calm and steady. Gomer stayed in the home Hosea had brought her back to. The children stayed under their father's roof. And, in time, some of them married and brought their own children to visit. The fields were planted and harvested season after season, the same as they had always been. Every evening, once the work was done, Hosea and Gomer walked out together to that same spot at the edge of the field, the same place they had stood as a young husband and wife